At a construction site, a man runs to stop his coworker from digging any further. They have found something dangerous buried in the ground. The news quickly reaches Chief Superintendent Susanna. The picture sent from the construction site appears to be an unexploded bomb, so an alarm is raised immediately. Major Will is at the shooting range when a phone call interrupts him with news of the incident. He also receives the picture and concludes it is a 1,000-pound bomb from World War II. He requests an 800-meter radius perimeter to be closed around the construction site. Police and military quickly take over the area and begin evacuating all the nearby residents. In a building next to a bank, an officer knocks on an apartment door and gets no answer. He assumes it is empty and moves on, not realizing someone is moving in the darkness inside. Elsewhere, a man named Rahim helps his elderly parents out of the building. When Will arrives at the construction site, he studies the bomb from a safe distance and orders his men to drain the liquid surrounding it. They also need to build protection around the foreman's cabin, which will serve as their command post. Will then shows his team footage of a bomb they failed to contain 2 years earlier. That explosion destroyed a large part of a town, so they must be extremely careful. A map of the building site reveals many electricity cables in the area, meaning power to the entire zone will have to be cut. On the street, a civilian ignores police warnings and runs past officers to retrieve his laptop, forcing the police to chase him. Moments later, the police announce the area has been successfully evacuated, unaware that in the darkened apartment, a man named Corrales and his team are hiding. At the construction site, drones are sent up and Corporal Martin puts a hose in the water to begin draining. When the power is finally cut, Corrales and his team leave the apartment and make their way to the basement where they had hidden tools earlier. The group sets up lights while Corrales installs a camera outside the front door and locks it. He then goes out through the back door and searches a dumpster for a hidden generator, grabs its cables and threads them through a pipe into the basement. After installing another camera near the alley gate, the team starts breaking through the basement wall using power tools. On his way back in, Corrales is startled by a fox, but ignores it. At the police station, Susanna notices something moving on the street and sends a drone to investigate. It turns out to be only the fox. In the basement, the team continues drilling through several layers of wall using a variety of tools. The bank alarm starts ringing, and a bank worker at the perimeter tells the police he needs to go inside to check on it. The officers tell him alarms are going off everywhere because of the power cut and send him away. When the team switches to an especially noisy drill, Corrales goes outside to watch the street and monitor the cameras. Every time a police car passes, he warns his team and they pause the drilling until it moves on. Martin informs Will that the water has been fully drained and finds him preparing some glasses for a drink. Will says it is a tradition to drink whenever a job is completed. Then Will and Martin bring their equipment over to begin working on the bomb. Susanna sends all police vehicles away from the immediate area. Will inspects the bomb and discovers it has a time fuse, confirmed by using a microphone to listen to the ticking inside. It could detonate at any moment over the next 48 hours. Will plans to use a magnetic clock stopper to inhibit it. Once everything is connected, everyone runs to take cover and the clock stopper is activated. It successfully stops the ticking without detonation. Now they must build a mitigation wall for a controlled explosion, a process that could take up to 5 hours. In the basement, the team hits steel and has to swap the drill for a welding machine. They eventually break through the wall and gain access to the bank vault. After spraying paint over the security camera inside, they begin opening deposit boxes and filling bags with cash and jewelry. They also find gold bars, but they are too heavy to carry, so they have to leave them behind. At the construction site, the soldiers continue building the mitigation wall when Will notices Martin standing too close to the bomb. He sounds a horn immediately and orders everyone to step back. Martin has spotted areas on the bomb that are not rusted, which strikes him as unusual for something supposedly 80 years old. Will believes it is simply well preserved and sends his men back to work. Minutes later, a soldier's scanner shows the bomb is ticking again, meaning the clock stopper is malfunctioning. The soldiers run for cover while Will gathers more tools. He will need to drill into the fuse and apply a solution to clog the mechanism. As Will begins drilling very slowly and carefully, an officer at the station notices a heat signature on the drone's thermal camera that cannot be explained by the soldier's equipment. Susanna immediately orders Will to stop the procedure and sends officers to investigate the unexplained heat source. Will spots Martin moving dangerously close to the bomb again and shouts at him to get back. Martin had moved the clock stopper because he felt responsible if it was malfunctioning. Will tells him it is not worth his life and sends him to shelter with the rest. In the vault, Corrales retrieves something specific from a particular box. One of his team members, X, reminds him to put it in the trolley. Corrales hesitates but does as he is told. Then, Corrales notices police approaching through the cameras and tells his team to freeze. He switches off the generator. A police car parks outside the building. Officers try to get inside, but the door is locked, so they decide to search around the building. Corrales tells his men to keep working quietly. Susanna notices the heat signature has disappeared while the officers outside spot Corrales in the alley. He immediately runs and alerts his team to hurry. They begin sealing and filling their boxes as fast as they can. The officers cannot follow Corrales immediately because the gate is locked and they have to go back to their car for tools to open it. At the construction site, Will feels something is very wrong. He tells everyone to cover their ears and put on their helmets. Suddenly, the ticking stops entirely and the bomb explodes, sending a massive shockwave across the area. The blast brings down the drones, but fortunately does not reach beyond the perimeter, so the evacuated residents are unharmed. The entire army team survives, although Will and one other soldier are injured. The officers in the alley are knocked down by the shockwave and call for backup. Susanna sends more units immediately. Corrales reunites with his team and takes a moment to open one of the boxes and check on the special item he collected. His team reminds him police are nearby and they need to move, but Corrales takes the moment anyway to confirm the item is safe. Now the team splits according to plan. Corrales and another team member go to the roof where they have hidden 2 drones. One is not working, but Corrales fixes it quickly. They load the boxes into the drone cages and launch them. Officers in the street see the drones in the sky but assume they are police drones. After a few minutes, the drones land on a rooftop elsewhere in the city where a woman collects the boxes. Meanwhile, 2 other team members, X and Z, head to the street where they have placed fake construction warnings around a manhole. They climb down into the sewers. Police watching the security footage spot them, and Susanna wonders if they are maintenance workers who did not hear the evacuation warnings. Corrales and his partner leave the building. A police car spots them immediately and they run. A chase begins and they enter a parking garage, running in circles around walls and columns to confuse the pursuing officers. They eventually slip out through the back door, gaining enough distance to reach the manhole and descend into the sewers. Outside the perimeter, X and Z emerge from a different manhole where their last team member is waiting in a van. Police cars soon surround the first manhole and officers enter the sewers, forcing Corrales and his partner to hide in a connecting tunnel. The woman arrives at the van with the boxes and some cake she baked for the team. X pays her and sends her on her way. Since police are already surfacing from the sewers nearby, the van has no choice but to move away. When Corrales and his partner finally emerge from the sewers, they call the van and it picks them up. Corrales immediately asks to check the boxes again. When the van reaches a police checkpoint, they hand over fake paperwork, identifying themselves as workers from a water utility company. The officers accept the story and let them through. At the station, Susanna examines screenshots of the men who entered the sewers and notices the same company logo on their uniforms. The officers at the checkpoint report the van with the matching logo that just passed through. But by then, the robbers have already pulled into a garage where they change the license plate and remove the logo from their clothing. They get back on the road and finally clear the city. The team celebrates. While police investigate the vault, Rahim approaches the checkpoint and tells officers his family has a flight to catch and needs to collect their bags from their apartment. When the officers learn he lives in the crime scene building, they allow the family back to take a witness statement. At the construction site, two senior officers arrive and demand to know why Will did not report the anomaly he noticed earlier. Will says his priority was the bomb and protecting the city. Afterward, Will gathers his team for a drink to mark the end of the operation, though he quietly pours his own drink onto the ground rather than drinking it. At the police station, Susanna interviews Rahim's family. Rahim explains that two men in blue overalls showed up at his door carrying paperwork from the landlord and asked for the keys to the basement storage area to drop off some tools. His father did not want to help them, but Rahim explains that, as immigrants, whenever someone who looks official approaches them, they feel they must cooperate to avoid trouble. He gave the men the keys but had no idea what they were really planning. Eventually, the robbers reach a safe house in the countryside where they take off their clothes to burn them along with the van. When they are forced to undress, it becomes clear that two team members secretly stole extra items for themselves, including gold. Corrales then reveals the contents of the special object he took from the vault. They are uncut diamonds worth 30 million pounds. He promises the proceeds will be split equally among the whole team. Afterward, Corrales goes outside to make a phone call. Suddenly, two men burst into the safe house and order the team to stand down. Z tries to resist and is beaten down quickly. One of the men fires and hits Y, so the driver tackles the gunman. X seizes the moment and runs for it while the second man beats up the driver. The chase continues upstairs, where X escapes a gunshot by jumping through a window. When he lands in the backyard, a man named Ludo is already there pointing a gun at him. The team is locked in the garage, furious at Corrales, who shows no reaction to their anger. In the living room, Corrales sits with the new arrivals and they split the loot over drinks. It is revealed that Ludo is his cousin. Ludo asks how Corrales knew about the diamonds, and Corrales explains they belong to a man he used to work for and now despises. Years ago, Corrales would fly into conflict zones, collect smuggled stones and carry them out on his person before depositing them in his employer's bank account. His employer then betrayed him. This robbery is his revenge. When Ludo asks for a diamond as a bonus, Corrales agrees to one. But when Ludo pushes for more, Corrales snaps. Sensing an advantage, Ludo demands 50% of everything. An argument breaks out and ends when Ludo smashes a tool on the table, destroying one of the diamonds. Except this should not be possible with real diamonds. Corrales tests the others in a panic and discovers they are all fakes. He swears he did not know they were fake, but Ludo does not believe him. His men pin Corrales' hand to the table, and Ludo crushes it with the tool, demanding the truth. Corrales keeps insisting he was deceived. Ludo takes all the loot, has his men throw Corrales in the boot of a car, and the group drives away, leaving the original team still locked in the garage. Meanwhile, all the remaining residents are allowed back into the evacuation zone. Power is still not restored, so Rahim's family have to carry his father's wheelchair up the stairs. While the family collects their belongings, Rahim goes to the roof and retrieves a bag of real diamonds hidden in a plant pot. He returns to his room and cuts open a suitcase handle to conceal the diamonds inside, assuring his brother that everything went smoothly. Will returns home and showers to clean his wounds. His senior officers then call to inform him that forensics have confirmed the bomb was not from World War II. It has been traced back to military supplies. He is required to report in the following morning to discuss the matter. Back at the safe house, X manages to cut his rope on the edge of the van door. He checks on Y, who is in very poor condition, and then frees the others. The driver starts the van without a key and uses it to ram the garage door repeatedly until it collapses. Unfortunately, Y dies in Z's arms before they can get him help. X then finds his tablet and reveals he placed trackers in all of the team's clothing in advance. He uses the tracking data to find Corrales' location. The three surviving team members leave in two cars. In the boot of Ludo's car, Corrales sends a text to an unknown number saying he is in trouble and includes his location. He shouts for mercy, but Ludo simply turns up the music to drown him out. At the Army storage facility, Martin runs tests on the clock stopper and finds an additional chip inside, confirming the device was deliberately tampered with. At the police station, the investigators finally trace the apartment paperwork back to Corrales, who has a long criminal history involving theft and diamond smuggling. At the airport, Rahim and his family pass through check-in without any difficulties. On the road, X locates Ludo's convoy and tries to block the vehicle. Ludo swerves to avoid the collision, but the second car approaches from the opposite direction and forces Ludo's vehicle through a fence. X and his team surround the group, smash a window, and fight for control of a weapon. In the boot, Corrales hears the music stop and then several gunshots. The boot is finally opened and Z and the driver drag him out. X then covers Corrales' head with a plastic bag and begins choking him. Suddenly, X is shot in the neck. As the driver is also shot in the leg, he and Z run for cover, and Corrales breaks free and runs toward the shooter, who turns out to be Will. They have been working together from the very beginning, and now they escape together. After they leave, Z and the driver search Ludo's car and find the bag containing the cash and jewelry. Back at the police station, Zuzana receives Corrales' file and matches his face to the security footage. Officers immediately alert all airports and border crossings. After stopping at a hotel to clean up, Corrales reaches the airport and checks in using a false passport before the alert reaches the terminal. He boards a flight and gets away. Meanwhile, Martin comes to the police station to tell Zuzana about the chip in the clock stopper. He also recognizes a photograph of Rahim, identifying him as Will's former interpreter in Afghanistan. It was Will who arranged for Rahim's entire family to be relocated to England for their safety. Zuzana then notices in the case files that Corrales was also in Afghanistan, working in a gemstone mine. She issues alerts for Will and Rahim as well. Will leaves the country on a private plane while officers rush to the airport to intercept Corrales. He manages to avoid them and boards the aircraft to escape. Zuzana then discovers that Rahim's brother was the night security guard at the construction site. When officers search Will's home, they find a personal workshop, notes on how to modify a bomb, and newspaper cuttings about a poorly planned military operation in Afghanistan that cost several lives. In Istanbul, Corrales, Will, and Rahim sell the diamonds for a substantial amount and split the money equally between the three of them. Afterward, they part ways to begin new lives. A flashback reveals how they first met 10 years earlier. Corrales was double-crossed and kidnapped by his employer. His guards threw him into the back of a truck, but he fought back and tried to escape. In a town nearby, Will was completing a successful negotiation with local residents with the help of Rahim's translation skills. As they were leaving town, Will and Rahim spotted a vehicle on the road and knew immediately it signaled hidden enemies. Will accidentally stepped on a pressure plate and the cables around them confirmed they were surrounded by buried explosives. At that moment, the truck carrying Corrales appeared and the hidden enemies opened fire and destroyed one of the vehicles. Amid the firefight, Corrales ran for cover and found Will. The two made a deal to help each other. Will freed Corrales and told him to find the control box for all the explosives. Corrales dug through the ground while Will provided covering fire from the enemies who kept shooting. He eventually found a box containing a grenade, and Will talked him through identifying and cutting the correct cables. Rahim joined Will in providing cover as the gunfire intensified. When Corrales had cut all the cables, Will was finally able to step away safely, and Rahim eliminated the remaining enemies. The group had only a moment to breathe before the grenade in the box activated, but all three of them ran fast enough to escape the blast. In the present, Corrales uses his share of the money to purchase a natural reserve in Africa, fulfilling a lifelong dream. The land reportedly contains diamonds. Rahim begins building a large family compound and launches his own company, though he required some of his relatives to change their names as a precaution. Will donates the majority of his money to a charity dedicated to clearing unexploded ordnance around the world. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and like the video. Thanks for watching.